In this session, you will learn the importance and benefits of creating a serious Amazon FBA brand. Our guest today will be Jerome from e-commerce agency. They help global brands to expand internationally and to become strong. And this session is part of the Seller Fest online virtual event, which is sponsored by three companies. The first one is Carbon 6. It's a suite of tools for Amazon sellers that help to optimize and streamline every aspect of Amazon business. Check the link below in the descriptions to see what tools they offer. Another company which is part of this event is Quartal. They are AI powered advertising optimization platform, which helps sellers and brand owners to maximize their potential in e-commerce. You will find the link below for Quartal as well. And last but not least, Getida is also sponsoring this session, and they are Amazon FBA auditing company that specializes in maximizing FBA reimbursements for sellers of any size. Again, the link to Getida's offer you will find below. And during this session, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to click like and subscribe below this video. And this session I'm co-hosting with Lisette. She works with different Amazon brands. Hi, Lisette.
Hi, Augustus, and hi to everyone else as well. And I'm excited to bring Jerome to join us here as well. So, Jerome, before we go to your presentation, could you first introduce yourself and tell us what you do in Amazon space?
So very happy to be with you guys. I'm Jerome, or Jérôme in French. I'm based out of Luxembourg, which is in the heart of Europe, I could say. I created and founded the agency called e-commerce, which stands for e-commerce made simple, where we help brands understand and navigate the e-commerce world, and specifically Amazon, meaning, understanding it, training them, and setting the right strategies, and then growing their brand and their sales on Amazon in Europe, but also worldwide. So in the States, in Japan, in Australia, in Saudi, everywhere where there is e-commerce.
Okay, very good. So while you set your presentation to be ready full screen for our viewers, I wanted to remind everyone who are joining us live that if you have any questions for Jerome, then type them in the chat box, because he will answer those after the presentation. So we are almost ready for, I think your presentation is not full screen yet. So now it's perfect.
Here you go. So let me know when I can start, because I can't see.
Yeah, you're ready to go now.
Okay, great. So today the topic we are going to talk about is branding, and branding in the context of e-commerce, and of how it's important for you to be successful in e-commerce. So it won't be something about, okay, what's the purpose of branding, or branding in general. The idea is really branding in the context of e-commerce. So we'll go through 20 minutes, 25 minutes of a few slides, and then it will be open up for Q&As. So let's go into it. And for me, the first image I get when I'm talking about building a brand for e-commerce is really this idea of being renting or buying a house. When you're renting, basically you're giving money to someone else, and this money is lost. When you're buying a company, sometimes you make a loan and you're paying the bank, but it's still money which you will keep. And for me, building a brand is exactly that. When you're investing in building momentum on your sales on e-commerce, if it's not your product, the moment the brand changes something, the moment the product is leaving, it's not in your control anymore, and you're losing all of it. Building a brand is an investment. So you're not looking at short-term or a shortcut of making money. You're looking in investing into something which will make much more money in the future. And specifically in the world of e-commerce and Amazon, building a brand has a lot of perks or things which will help you to be more successful. And in a sense, it's all about being in control. So there's three things we'll cover today, which the idea here is to say, if you want to unlock the power of Amazon, you need to use a brand which you own. And the three main elements is distribution and pricing. The second one is advertising, and the last one is content. So let's go into the details of first. I'd like to introduce you to one of the sessions we do to middle to big to very large brands today, or sellers or vendors, is what does it take to be successful on Amazon? And there's 4 things you need to look at to be successful. One is profitability. And profitability is on 2 sides. It could be your own profitability. You need to make sure you make money, which today is not very easy. Like Amazon has increased their FBA prices. The cost of delivery has increased everywhere. There's a lot of cost pressure today in our world. So profitability for your own self. And if you're selling as a 1P, as a vendor to Amazon, there is also an issue of profitability on Amazon side. And this is linked to defining the right strategy in terms of product assortment, pricing, and making sure you will have an environment where you can make money. The second success driver is availability. You need to make sure the products you're selling are available. Otherwise, on Amazon specifically, you will never be successful if your product is out of stock, because the story stops. So there's an idea about managing operation and supply chain. The 2 last points. The first one is making sure you have great content and a great story to tell to get people involved and engaged. And the last part is growing traffic. Is once you have the right price point, you're making money, you've got the good supply chain, you've got great content, people are buying your product, you need to send people to your page. Now, on those different aspects, you will see that having a brand makes a big difference. And therefore, if it makes a big difference on those 4 key success drivers, it will have a major impact in your success overall on Amazon. So it means that having a brand versus not having a brand, you have much more chances of being in control of your success when you're having a brand. So the first one on the pricing, so I won't make a lesson about the buy box. I think most of you know about the buy box. The buy box is this box on the right. When you get to the Amazon page, you press the buy now button and you buy the product. The thing is, behind this buy now or this buy box, there's an algorithm. There's a system which is working between the different offers. And you can see here, for example, you've got 2 different offers with 2 different prices, with different delivery prices, with also different players. So one is Amazon, the other one is the other 2 ones are different players. So the thing here is, as a brand, if you are owning the distribution, you can control the number of other players which would be selling. And let's say that if you were the one producing that game in this example, and you would be deciding who is selling, you would be 100% sure of getting the buy box. So in a nutshell, having your own brand will help you control the buy box. So if we go back to the principle, is you own the products, you control, you produce them, you control the distribution. You can decide to whom you're going to sell and not going to sell. You could decide to be Amazon only for a first step, for example. And because you control the distribution, you control the buy box. And that means if you control the buy box, you're certain of at least not competing with anybody else to win those sales. When you don't have the brand and you're reselling someone else's product, you're obviously in their control, because you don't know what they're going to do with their own prices. You don't know if there will be other distributors. So you lose that control. And once again, you lose the capability to controlling the sales and your success on that first strategic side. Now, on the second aspect is, if you look at Amazon, so a lot of people believe that Amazon is one machine. Actually, it's more of a machine of machines, or let's say a database of different databases. So you've got the first layer, I would say, which is the selling layer. So you could be in the marketplace with Amazon Seller Central or Amazon Vendor Central if you're at 1P. So that's the first layer. You've got a second layer, which is, it's linked, but it's not the same, which is Amazon advertising. So even though when you go to Vendor Central or Seller Central, you feel that, okay, the advertising console is inside, it's not actually, it's a different database. And they've tried to integrate it a bit to make it a seamless experience, but it's different layers. So these are 2 layers. And you've got the third layer, which is one of the most important ones, which is the most recent one, to be fair. It's probably three or four years ago when they started that, which is Amazon Brand Registry. So what is Amazon Brand Registry? Amazon Brand Registry is another database where you can register the fact that your brand or your trademark is registered somewhere in the world, and that will give you specific rights for yourself, specifically on the content side and on the advertising side, which will give you superpowers, if you want, to drive sales. And if you compare here again someone who's got no brand to someone who's got a brand who's registered it, then the one who's registered it has superpowers the other one doesn't have. And here again, having a brand will help you grow your sales, because we will see in a few slides, this really helps you drive sales on Amazon. So let's now see in the details. Once we are brand registered, so we have a brand, and we'll go through the different action steps you will have to do to register a brand and what you need to do. But let's say you have the brand, and let's look at those superpowers I was talking about to unlock the full power of Amazon. The first thing you can unlock with brand registry is A+ content. So it's some people call it below the fold. So that's when you scroll down on your computer, the manufacturer's content, it's called sometimes, where you can see all what the brand can explain and can talk about. And that's the first thing you can unlock. The second thing you can unlock is the brand store. The brand store is basically when you go in on the product page and you see the title below. Normally there's a brand or there's a link, and that's called the brand store. And that brand store is only available to the people who have a registered brand and have created a brand store. And that generates a lot of sales. We will see in a moment. The third thing is that it also unlocks different types of advertising which are not available for non-brand owners. The last one, which it can be useful or not, is if you want to have a 1P account, if you want to sell to Vendor Central, you can do that only if you have a brand registered today. So like more than 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was possible to have a vendor account, to open a vendor account without brand registry. Sorry. Nowadays, it's impossible. Vendor Central is very interesting when you'll have a very low price point product, for example, or when you want to have the clout of Amazon to sell and to push your products. Let's focus on the first three parts of why it's so important to have those three elements with you to push your sales. The first thing is a recent study from 2022 from Salsify has identified that 71% of the products in the top 10 of all categories have got A+ content. That means there's a strong correlation between the fact of having A+ and the fact of being successful. On the other side, it's seen that 75% of the product which are unranked, meaning on page 2, page 3, and so on, do not have A+ content. Therefore, if you don't own the brand, you will be under the control of the brand if they have done A+ content or not. If they have done on the page you're selling onto, then you'll benefit from it, but you need to win the buy box. However, if it's your own brand, you can control that and make sure that the A+ page is done and is well done. The second part is talking about brand store. So brand store, and this is a number coming from Amazon directly, so you can appreciate that, okay, this is their own number. They say that there's an increase of 35% in higher attributed sales per visitor with a brand store. So the fact of having a brand store gives you an ability to sell more products, because people will see the brand experience. People will start to see, okay, the different products within the brand store, and you will be able to do advertising to push in the different segments of the brand store. So we can see that if you have A+, you increase a lot your sales. If you have a brand store, the same way. Now, I talked about advertising, the more advertising options. So you've got different advertising options. So sponsored product is the one which is everyone has, and you need only to have a product and to have the buy box. If you don't have the buy box, a sponsored product doesn't run. Now, if you own the brand registry, you can have sponsored brand advertising, which is very interesting if you want to send them to build the brand awareness and send them, for example, to your brand store, or maybe to a landing page with several brand products. But also sponsored display ads, where you will be able there to target customers outside of your own category, looking at other categories, cross categories, and building also your market share based on that. And this, you don't have access if you don't have brand registry. So I wanted to maybe a few slides to finish about some case studies, real stories, which give you an idea of what the impact. So here is about a brand called My Carry Body, which started in the UK, and they created a very nice identity, a very nice story. So that's one thing I wanted to share here, is that you can see from the picture already that you have a story, right? You have it. So it's a potty. So, okay, a product for young kids. And you can see that it's already, you have a butterfly, you have a dress which goes with it. You have a story. And that's very important. When you have when you build a brand, you can build a story. And that's super powerful. And the story here is Amanda, for example. She was going around with her kids and she said, wow, it's very difficult to train them to go to the potty. And she built that because she saw the result, and she saw the need to get her babies and young kids involved and engaged in that work of getting clean, let's say. And building on this brand they build and on the different elements, the sales have increased more than 10 times. Because the story was strong, because the brand was theirs, and it reflected their own story. Here you can see that what's interesting, the first thing is on conversion rate. So conversion rate is probably the metric which for us is most important, and it's to see how many people which are coming to your page are convinced. Obviously, when you're owning the brand, you can control that, or you can go in one direction or another. Depending on your audience, you can tailor the message you're giving. And it's more work, obviously, but it also gives a much more high value kind of result. So you can see here, it's been growing with time, because the brand has been more and more talking to their own audience. And the number of visitors you can see have increased. And the big peak is as soon as the brand store was put in place, the number of visitors also increased a lot. Another case study from another brand, so still in the baby category, I wanted you to talk about babies today. This is a brand called Mia Mili, where they do baby carriers. It's a complex category because a lot of brands are there, and very strong brands. And the idea here was to build the brand, but build a brand on Amazon and also outside of Amazon. And through this case study, I wanted to highlight the fact that when you build a brand, you can control, or you've got different ways of funneling traffic or people's interest into the pages. Here, obviously, there's been the work of creating the content, A+ content, brand store, advertising. But then there was also the work of Google, Facebook ads, and also Amazon Live, for example, in the US, where you can post live videos of you using the product. And that is very interesting because, 1,700% growth. So it's just to make a point that the fact that you can really talk about the brand and try different areas and try in different things, and having your Instagram page maybe and a Facebook page, and driving customers to either your own website or to Amazon really makes a big difference in the way you can grow your sales. And once again, it's all about control. When you have your brand, you have much more control versus when you don't have your brand. So just to finish up, and that's my last slide, it's a bit of a simple action plan, like 5 steps you have to have in mind. First is, in terms of timing, you need to count between 6 and 12 months to be ready. Why? Is because you will see in the details. First, you need to select your story, concept, products. So here, to my example, my case bodies. Okay, what kind of products am I bringing? So if you've been doing retail for some time, you probably have spotted really good products, or you've seen from a competitor or someone you've been reselling products. You say, wow, that's really an interesting thing, but I could improve it. Okay, you can come up with an idea and sort of work on the unique selling points. And that takes that could take years, but once you start to have the idea, maybe you can take a 3 months time to say what are the values of that brand, what's my audience, what do I want to say with that products. The second step is register your brand. So you need to decide your own brand, and you need to select at least one country. So it could be the States, it could be in Europe. You've got worldwide, you've got European-wide, so you've got lots of options. And the best is probably to talk to a patent lawyer, to talk with them. So, okay, what are the best options? And register your brand. That's very important. So now that's probably the biggest bottleneck, because that can take from 6 to 8 months, depending on how busy they are, to register your brand. The third step is organizing the supply chain. So 3 months could maybe be a bit optimistic. If depending on the complexity of your product, it could be 3 to 6 months. Depending once again of the product itself. You've got a lot of companies which are helping there, or you can, if you have contacts, you need to source the products. One thing to be careful about is a lot of brands now seen that buying from China has got issues because of COVID, because of containers, or scarcity of containers, for example. So that's something you can take into account. Now, the fourth step is super, super important. If you have your own brand, the thing you have to do is produce content. So produce text, produce pictures, produce videos, and that I put 1 to 3 months. Typically, you could see the picture already with a little girl with a butterfly dress and the butterfly body. That picture says more than 1,000 words, right? So investing that time is super important. The last point is, that's the usual thing with Amazon. You need to create the products, upload the content, start your advertising on and maybe off Amazon, and look into social media. If you've got a limited team or limited resources, start with Amazon already, and that's a big job. And the idea here is look at your conversion rates. And if your conversion rates are low, that's probably a brand awareness thing, or it might be also because you're not talking to the right audience. Here you go, and thank you very much. We'll open up now for Q&A.
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. And for the viewers, if you enjoyed what Jerome just explained, then definitely like this video as well. So now we will talk about, Augustus, you joined us as well, right?
Yeah, I wanted to say that you will find the link below to Jerome's e-commerce agency as well. And this video is part of the virtual summit where we invited 25 or more experts to share their expertise, just like Jerome. And besides the free content you are seeing here on these videos on YouTube, we also asked every speaker to bring us additional additional content, which we call VIP video, and we packaged this into VIP package, which you can find by clicking the link below in the description. And if you will upgrade, you will get 25 additional videos, which are not going to be published for free anywhere. And these videos are additional in-depth presentations, different checklists. Also, we have additional strategies how you can negotiate when you're sourcing products, additional ideas how you can create good creatives for your Amazon product listing, how to work with flat files. And I know that it was not as Jerome providing us a VIP video from e-commerce agency. It was Jerome's colleague, Nasli, probably. And Jerome, do you know what she was presenting? or you
Yeah,
cannot
so
comment?
it was about how do you want to start your FBA business and like expert recommendations. So actually, Nazlı, who's our head of consulting, went through it, and with some of our experts from our team handling FBA accounts. And I think it's specifically for people getting started or wanting to expand in other countries to get through that.
And yeah, if you upgrade, you get access to all these videos, and one of them is from e-commerce. All right, thank you. And I think we have few questions now, right?
Yeah, let's start with the questions. Yeah. So Rihan is asking, when launching a new product on Amazon FBA that has increasing number of competitors day by day, is registering a brand and going all out in branding a viable option or not?
So in terms of handling your competitors, yes, for me it's a viable option. Now, an important thing is, do you make enough money on it? Like, you need to make sufficient money to be able to invest in advertising and work on your competitors' strong points and weak points. So one good way of doing it is looking at reviews from your competitors, what people like and what people don't like. So what they like, you might want to replicate or improve, and what they don't like, you want to improve it. And typically, we talked about advertising, sponsored display, or even sponsored products. You may want to target the products where you think you're better than them, because you can outgrow the competitors. Like, obviously, if they have more budget, then there will be a war about who's got budget to invest in the brand. But yeah, having a brand the idea is really to go against another competitor and to make sure you get the most of it. Of course, when you do your market research, look at maybe a category where you don't know have an overwhelmingly strong brand. Like if you do, I don't know, if you do Coke or cola, and you have Coca-Cola, it might be difficult. For example, you wouldn't do that, but just to give an idea.
Good, thank you so much. So, in which European country I should register for a trademark?
So there's two elements when you're looking at trademarks from the Amazon standpoint. To get access to brand registry, the country is not interesting. Now, what's interesting is if you want to protect your trademark and you might be afraid of people or copycats. If there's one market which is your key market, then probably you want to register there to protect yourself there, because if you find like copy from Asia or from anywhere else, to be fair, you would want to because brand registry also enables you to raise tickets inside Amazon system, inside brand registry, to say, okay, there's someone who's a counterfeit of my product, and that's what. So you need to select the biggest market for you, or the most important one.
Okay, actually, we do have a question about brand registry as well. So what are the issues that brand registry support usually helps to solve?
So it was mainly built to fight against counterfeits. So counterfeit will be normally the one where you have the main issues to solve. Now, you can have things about content sometimes where you say, okay, I'm owning the content, my content is not appearing, or somebody else's content appeared. That's usually, but normally you should raise that through your seller or vendor account. But in some cases, we have to go through the brand registry one to make sure that the brand registry information is there. Sometimes there's also an issue in terms of linking your brand registry account with your seller account, because you've registered it, but in the backend they didn't link it. So you might want to ping both sides, seller account and brand registry account, for example.
Okay. So for what type of companies is the vendor program designed for?
So the type of companies is brand owners, to be fair. So it's for Amazon, if they want to source directly from the brand, that's a vendor program. On the paper, basically, they only take vendors which are big enough and which probably the marketplace would not get a good supply of, or they would want to control the supply. Now, there's loopholes or ways in, for example, brands who don't want to compete with other retailers sometimes, or brands who don't have the organization to handle a seller account, because reconciliation can be difficult. Sometimes they prefer to have a vendor account, or I gave the example where if you have cheap products, like less than 10 euros. Sometimes selling on the seller account is very difficult to make a margin. So vendor is an easy way because you have a much clearer view on your net prices versus on the seller account.
Good. So Rehan has a question, and actually it consists of many different elements. So how to get maximum juice out of Amazon A+ content, sponsored brands, and Amazon Live. Perhaps choose one at first and then just comment on that.
So for me, I can, to answer from all of them is first use them to make sure that's the first thing. The second thing is create a great story. Like if your A+ content is a bit dull or doesn't talk about unique selling points, you might not convince people. Amazon Live is interesting if you've got things to talk about to your product. Sponsored brands make sense if you've got a brand store and you've got a great brand story. If you haven't worked on that and you haven't worked on who is your audience, that you will not get a lot of juice to take your words out of it. So it's really build a strong story from it, and that's the Mike Haggerty example, and then build on it, and then that's where you will have a great conversion.
Yeah, he says very smart.
Thank you very much.
So, can you share? So let me have this question here. So, can you share a strategy for designing storefront that would help to increase sales?
So there are a good idea is, for example, to go and watch yourself different brand stores and which are the one as a consumer you feel appealing, or look at what are suggestions. What we typically do is think about the customer journey. Sometimes it's not always to have to be a catalog like, okay, this is my line A, my line B, and my line C is okay. How would the customer look like? What will we be looking for, and what will be the entry? The entrance way of going into the brand store. I know, like an automotive brand we've been working with, we worked on seasons. It's like, are you traveling in summer? Are you traveling in the winter, in fall, or are you traveling abroad? So this is like going from your need rather than I'm offering this and that. And the last tip is what works well is also to make a promo page, like or new products or hot off the press or whatever, is have that page, because that drives a lot of traffic on your bestsellers or something like that. That makes, okay, straight away someone who wants good deals will go to that page.
Good. So how to get rid of hijackers and win back the buy box if the seller is brand registered?
So hijackers, there's two options. One, it's a counterfeit. Then you know what to do. You have to open a case on brand registry. Two, it's a legitimate product, and then that you need to handle your distribution, and you need to make sure to who you're selling to. Like I could give an example of a brand who was selling containers in Eastern Europe, and then they found out that this distributor was selling the products into Amazon Germany, and they were losing the buy box. Well, stop selling containers, and then you can win the buy box again.
So Rehan says, thanks, Jerome, and also asks, so investing in multiple products is a good idea, or a single product and then increase to more products?
So I would not recommend to go with a single product, because a single product is very difficult, because it's a hit or miss. Like it's if it doesn't work, you don't have an option B. Because specifically on advertising and in general, because conversion rate is super important. If your conversion rate is not good on this product for whatever reason, then you don't have another option. So there is a sweet spot, probably 10, 15 products to get started with, so that you have enough to play with. And especially on the advertising side, you need to be able to work on different aspects.
Okay, so in the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned profitability. So I had a question here. So what should be the minimum aim profit margin after the PPC and marketing costs?
That's a $1 million question. That really is like there's as many points as there is of entrepreneurs. For me, you have to take into account in which environment you are. Like, is it a high margin? Like, are you doing more luxury products, or are you doing very consumable products? It's like, if you're doing very consumer electronic products, which everyone is selling, like, don't expect to make 50% margin. that's probably not going to work. If you're in luxury goods where you have a lot of returns or something like that, you probably will want to have more. So it's more finding a sweet spot of where is the market, what's your production cost, and then it's working around it. To be fair, for me, it's more about an end consumer price point. Like anything below 20 euros, it's very difficult to make money. So the best is to go something, the closer you get to 100 euro with a smaller size, that's a sweet spot of where you will make money.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, it was very interesting to discuss these things with you. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jerome. And great content. I know you don't probably work, your agency doesn't work with a very small sellers, but you are targeting more bigger brands. So how exactly you help them? And if somebody's listening, want to reach out to you, how you will help them?
So typically we help brands which want to expand, and we're very good in expanding in other market and going international. Typically we start with their knowledge. So if they are very knowledgeable, then we can say, okay, we can have the discussion and say, okay, let's go in what market you want to go. Do you want to open a vendor? Do you want to open a seller account? We can handle that account for you. If they are less knowledgeable, for example, if they're based in the US and want to come to Europe, we can start with a workshop, giving them an overview of what the market looks like, the size of the price, and what we recommend in terms of action. So it's either going first, helping set up the strategy, or directly going into operations and, okay, you need translations, you need VAT, we are a bit one-stop shop for them to get started. And it's true that the cost of that support is can be important. So if your potential is much less than 800,000 to $1 million, that's probably a bit complicated, but there's a lot of options in the market with great companies. We can help at different stages. We will be happy to hand you over, to recommend you people which are really doing a good job.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And the link to e-commerce you will find below in the description. And thanks a lot, Jerome. Bye-bye. Good luck in your business.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye. And now I would like to invite you to watch other video with Jerome, where he shows a case study how one of the brands hit 7 figures in 1 year.